Hello, I'm Carrie O'Shea Gorgone, and this is Appfire Presents, the best work management show by Appfire. Today, we're going to address the question, how do you as a leader bring successful change to your team? And to help with that is Michelle Bartonico, senior strategist and project manager at Trinity University. Michelle has a new book out in January of 2023, Stakeholder Engagement Essentials You Always Wanted to Know. It's available for pre-order now and will be out January 24th. So grab that over at vibrantpublishers.com. But for right now, stick around for 10 minutes of work management advice.
Appfire Presents, the best work management show by Appfire.
Michelle, thanks for stopping by. So the question is, how do you as a leader bring successful change to your team? There's a lot of parts to that, right? Like successful change. We can all bring about change, but will it help?
Right. So I think the important thing to remember as a leader is that it doesn't matter what you're changing. If something is changing, it's important to pay attention to the people who are being impacted. So the first thing that I would give anyone advice about as a leader would be to say, think about who actually will be impacted by the change at hand. How might their job be different in the future state? And begin to identify how you want to outreach to those individuals. So let's take something really simple that maybe people would overlook. Let's say that you are moving office furniture around in your department. You know, if you're a leader, you're like, oh, I got a million things to do that are much more high priority. Just move the couch over there, move the TV over there, move the desk over there, and everything will be fine. And then all of a sudden you get feedback that says this person's unhappy, this person's talking to this person, there's some chaos that ensued. And as a leader, that one misstep of thinking, well, it's just a simple change to me because I have other priorities, is now costing you time and attention away from those things you were trying to get at anyway.
And productivity on the part of your team.
And productivity on part of your team. And then depending on the culture that already was there, possibly a tipping point for morale. So one of the models that I like to subscribe to, and I'm definitely not perfect, but one of the models that I like to subscribe to is ProSci's methodology, and it's the ADKAR model. So ProSci is one of the leading change management organizations, and they have a model called ADKAR, ADKAR. And what that stands for is awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And let's take that simple example, or we can take another one if you'd like, but let's take that simple example of moving office furniture. So making people aware of what's going to change and why, that's what awareness actually means. It doesn't mean, hey, I sent out the email, so now you're all aware of it. It actually means that you're aware of what's changing and why, and you're then able to field questions or proactively solicit Q&A from your team about why now, what's changing, what happens if we don't change. So of course, in this simple example about moving furniture, it's not going to be very complex. But if there's a change in staffing, if there's a process workflow change, a software implementation, it's still going to be this ADKAR model. It's still going to be what's changing and why, and hopefully helping people really understand what it means to potentially be in this future state. Awareness also doesn't mean that you have a change that is imposed on people. So one thing I would
just letting you know.
It's just so you know, FYI. So one thing, sometimes you do, sometimes it's a mandate down to the leader as well. And that makes it even more important to say, here's what's changing, here's why, here's the timeline. I'm here to answer any questions you have or drive feedback up to the people who are mandating some of these changes. But for the most part, you're usually in requirements gathering or you're in some sort of discovery. And so the best example I can give is when you are part of a project team and there's some sort of process that's about to be implemented. And your department or your office is going to be part of this future process change, but the process isn't fully developed yet. So what I would suggest as a leader is you say to your team, I want to make you aware that I've been pulled into a potential process or workflow update. Here's why we think this needs to happen in general. Here's what happens if we don't address this in some way. And I want to make sure you understand what our role might be in this process. And then again, get their reaction, get their feedback, because change management is all about the people side of change and the people side of any project that has change associated with it. So desire would be people's willingness to actually participate in the change. And that might not happen right away for everyone. And
what?
Sometimes
people aren't thrilled that things are changing.
People don't like change. People don't like change, and it's unfortunately the only constant. So as a leader, it's important to be aware of what it feels like for you to be asked to change as well, and to be aware of, again, just the macro environment. There's been a lot of change over the last 3 years. So people have change fatigue sometimes, and change has been received differently by different people. So helping your team understand what's in it for them or what's in it for me or the organization at large might be triggers for people and help them get on board. So as a leader, the strategy and the approach would be to communicate clearly, often, and be engaging, and a listening ear to people. It, again, might not mean you've got all the answers, and it might not mean that there's a lot of flexibility in what the change may be. But going through that ADKAR model will also allow you to sort of track where your team is throughout their individual change journey. So the success of any project or business outcome is a collective of individual change. People have to make the change to then implement the project deliverables, the process update, etc.
So that's awareness and desire. And what's knowledge? Is that actually, explaining what's happening? Or is that the nuts and bolts of it? How it's getting done?
Yeah, it's actually the knowledge of how to change. So if you're thinking about a process or software update, it literally is how do I make this change? How do I see myself in this new future state? What do I need to do? What do I need to know during and after this change? And ability is literally, how do I do it? What is my capability? What is the training like? So as a leader, you'll want to think about, do you need to come up with a training plan to make sure that your people aren't ill-equipped to be in this future state, whatever that may be. And one of the reasons why people revert back to desire. So let's say that they're like, I'm on board. I'm aware. I'm on board. I kind of know what's going on in this future state. Now train me. Now let's say that they get in there and they don't feel adequately trained. Well, what's going to happen? Well, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So it's important to be aware that people are not just going to fluidly move forward through this journey. They might say, I don't know how to do this. Now I feel threatened. Now I don't want to do it. I'm going back to desire. And now I'm also questioning why we're even doing this at all. So now you've got them all the way back. So thinking ahead about how to equip people for the change that's about to be there, and hopefully bringing them along the way is really important. But also thinking about making sure that your key influencers are equipped and on board, so that if there is a hiccup, they can go back to their kind of network and say, it's okay, I learned it, we've got this, again, have a rally cry.
Is that what the R in ADKAR is for? Rally?
Rally cry. No, unfortunately, it is reinforcement. So it's sustaining the change. I will continue to do X. I have the mechanisms in place. I've got the resources. I know how to measure my success. I know how to make sure that it's fully adopted in perpetuity. And that is often something that on the project management side, putting on my other hat, sometimes that's lost. It's like, check, I've gotten the deliverable, I'm closing the scope, we're good, I'm moving on. And that's where the change management piece really helps to pick up and say, if we're working in tandem, you can close out your project, but it needs to be handed off to operations. It needs to make sure that it's sustained and it's reinforced, and that your project and its deliverables weren't for naught. So open communication, acknowledging that people are going to go through their individual kind of ADKAR journey, as well as yourself. So sometimes if a change is imposed on you, then you have to turn around and cascade. You've got to go through your own stages of grief sometimes and say, okay, so why are we doing this? I need to make sure I understand. I need to make sure I'm on board. And so if you sense yourself asking those questions, you're in effect going through the A and the D without really realizing it.
I'm the opposite. I love change. I'll be like halfway in it, and then I'll be like, wait, why did I do this?
So you're an early adopter, but you're not sure what you're adopting. So
exactly. I'm sure it will be great.
So
I'm
you're
optimist.
You're good at the rally cry, but then you need you need some talking points so that you can do the rally cry for everyone else who still has questions.
Yeah, I'm an optimist, Michelle. Michelle Bartonico, thank you for stopping by. Everybody go and get Michelle's book, Stakeholder Engagement Essentials You Always Wanted to Know. It's available January 24th, 2023 at vibrantpublishers.com. You can pre-order it now. And if you'd like more episodes of the Best Work Management Show, those you can find at hub.appfire.com. Thanks so much for stopping by, everyone.